Hey there, it's Jay Connor. They call me the Private Money Authority. I teach real estate investors how to get all the money they need, no banks, no credit, none of that. And listen, this isn't investment advice. Do your due diligence and all that kind of good stuff. But the truth is, I'm not talking about your money. I'm talking about using someone else's. Now, that's a rider downer right there.
Do me a favor, tell me the story about 2008, what happened to you and how you pivoted.
Sure. Well, growth takes place in the valley. Typically, growth does not take place when you're on top of the mountain. Well, my wife Carol Joy and we met my very first Sunday in town at church in Wichita Falls, Texas. We've been living here in eastern North Carolina ever since 1988. We started investing in single-family houses in 2003, full-time, here in a very, very small market. Our total target market's only 40,000 people, but we'll do on average 2 to 3 deals a month. Average profits right now are $86,000 per deal. I do not share that to brag or come from a space of ego. I share that to make a point, and that is there's an argument to be made that you can be a big fish in a small pond and sort of dominate your market. That's why we do, and that's why our average profits are 86,000 each. We started investing in 2003, Andrew, and from 2003 until January 2009, our first 6 years of investing, what we did is I went to the local bank, and here's how I got my deals funded. I go to the local bank, I get on my hands and knees, I put my hands underneath my chin, and I say, please fund my deal. And my banker would make me pull up my skirt so they could look at all my personal assets, pull my credit report, look at my financial statements. And they made all the rules. In fact, that's what most people think you have to do when you're borrowing money for real estate is he who has the cash makes the rules. So that's what I was doing. Well, that worked out okay, until January 2009. Andrew, I was sitting right here at this desk. Maybe hard to believe for you and some of your audience to know we actually still have landlines here in my office with cords attached to it. But anyway, I was sitting here at my office. I picked up my phone here and I called up my banker. His name was Steve. He was working for BB&T at the time. Nowadays it's called Truist. And Steve and I had a great relationship for 6 years. Steve was the main funding source using institutional money for my single family houses the first 6 years. I called up Steve in January 2009. I had 2 houses under contract to buy. They, in total, represented over $100,000 in profit between those 2 deals. So I called him up. I told him about the 2 deals. And Steve and I had this kind of conversation many times for 6 years. I didn't know anything was different. And so I learned immediately over the telephone, Steve informed me that my line of credit for my real estate investing had been shut down with no notice. And I said, Steve, what in the world are you telling me my line of credit is closed with no notice? We've got a great, business relationship here. We've done a ton of deals. Why are you closing my line of credit? Steve said, Jay, don't you know there's a global financial crisis going on right now? I said, no, I don't know anything about that, Steve, but I know one thing. You just gave me a global financial crisis. I don't have a way to fund my deals, particularly these 2 deals. He said, sorry, Jay, we are just not loaning any money out to real estate investors. So I hung up the phone. Andrew, I sat here at my desk for a moment, and I asked myself a very important question. I want to share this question with you and your audience. It's very powerful because, the power is asking the right questions. And I asked myself, Jay, who do you know that can help fix your problem? And by the way, these people running around saying every problem's an opportunity. I want to throw up and be the Kool-Aid guy that runs into a brick wall. I didn't have a problem. I didn't have an opportunity. I had a problem. Yeah. Let's face it. I had a problem. So I asked myself, who can help me fix my problem? Immediately, it was immediately when I asked myself that question, I immediately thought of Jeff Blankenship. He was living in Greensboro, North Carolina at the time. Carol Joy and I know him for many, many years from singing at gospel Christian events. And he was investing in single family houses in Greensboro, North Carolina at the time. I called him up and I told him what had just happened with my banker. And Jeff said, well, welcome to the club. I said, what club are you talking about? He said, the club of having the bank shut down your credit. He said, my bank just shut me down last week. Now, this was January 2009. My first thought was, well, I'm talking to the wrong dude here. I said, well, Jeff, how you going to fund your deals? He said, well, have you ever heard of private money? I said, no. What's private money? He says, well, let me ask you another question. He said, have you ever heard of self-directed IRAs? I said, no. What's that? He said, well, a self-directed IRA, as I understand it, is a third-party custodian company approved by the IRS that allows individuals to move current retirement funds over to their company. Then they can lend that money out either tax-deferred or tax-free to us real estate investors. I said, Jeff, I don't have a clue what in the world you're talking about. I said, how am I going to learn about private money? He said, well, there's this guy down in Jacksonville, Florida by the name of Ron LeGrand that can teach us all about private money. I said, well, what is it? He said, I don't know, but Ron says we can get a lot of it for our real estate deals. So Jeff and I went to my very first real estate investing conference and seminar, which was Ron LeGrand's seminar all the way back in 2009. I learned about private money. I came back home, and what did I do? I raised $2,150,000 in less than 90 days. And how did I go about doing it? I decided that I was going to go about raising money without ever asking for money. And you know what's interesting, Andrew? To this day, this is 2025. To this day, I've never asked anybody for money, and I've never pitched a deal. And people say, Jay, how in the world do you get all that money for your real estate deals and you never pitched a deal? Well, there's two parts to it, and then I'm going to turn it back to you, Andrew. First of all, I tell people it's very hard to raise money until you own the real estate between your ears and get your mindset right. So the first thing I did is I put my program together that I was going to offer without any deals attached to it. What rate am I going to pay? It's 8%. I've been paying 8% since 2009. It hadn't changed since. No origination fees. Maximum loan to value is 75% of the after repaired value, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I put my program together, and then what did I do? I put on my teacher hat, which says private money teacher, and I went about in my own connections, people on my cell phone, people I go to church with, people in the Rotary Club, people I've already got an association with that they know me, like me, and trust me. And I started teaching people about private money and how they can earn high rates of return safely and securely, and how they can be protected without attaching a deal to it. Because here's a writer downer. Desperation has got a smell to it, meaning if I'm talking about private lending opportunity and I got a deal attached to it, I'm already saying in so many words, I need you to fund my deal. I'm already sounding desperate. When's the worst time in the world to be trying to raise private money? When you need it for a deal, right? And so I wanted to establish these relationships and teach people. I did a private lender luncheon, and I got a pledge of $969,000 from one private lender luncheon with no deals attached to it. So then how do I get my deals funded without ever asking? And then I'll turn it back to you, Andrew. I'm going to share with you right now, with you and your audience, what I call the great news phone call. Here's the script. Here's the script. The great news phone call. Andrew, let's say hypothetically you're one of my new private lenders. Let's say you got $150,000 in a previous 401k at a previous employer. You're not happy with what it's doing. I've taught you the program. I've taught you the interest rate, how you can get your money back in case of an emergency, how you're protected, being named as the mortgagee on the insurance policy, and all that kind of good stuff. And you love it. You love the program. Say, Jay, I'm interested in that. I'd like to do that. And I say, okay, well, I don't have a deal for you today, but I'm going to put your money to work for you just as soon as possible. So a week or two goes by, and I call you up, Andrew. Here's the exact script, the exact words that I say to Andrew to get my deals funded 100% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
I call up Andrew, my new private lender. We have a little chit chat. And then I say, Andrew, I've got great news for you. I can now put your money to work. I've got a house under contract in Newport with an after repaired value of $200,000. Now the funding required for the deal is $150,000, which matches up to what you have available in your retirement account. Closing is going to be next Tuesday, so I'll need for you to wire your funds to my real estate attorney. I'm going to have my attorney email you the wiring instructions. That's the end of the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's unpack why Andrew wants to do that deal, and he is ecstatic to get the great news phone call.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, Andrew's not earning any money on his money in the retirement account until I put his money to work. He moved his money over at my recommendation. I introduced him to the self-directed IRA company. He's done what I recommended. Now he's wanting to put his money to work. He's not making any money until I put his money to work. I'm ethically and morally responsible and obligated to put his money to work. And then secondly, I'm not going to bring Andrew a deal to fund that does not meet the criteria of the program that I already taught him before he even moved his money over. So teach, lead with a servant's heart. You know, I got 47 private lenders. Not one of them ever heard of private money or private lending until I put on my teacher hat. None of them ever heard of self-directed IRAs and how that works until I put on my teacher hat. And we're not in a rush. We're not desperate. We follow that. I call them up with the good news phone call, and everybody is happy.
So I should let you in a little bit of a secret. My license plate is BYO Bank, and that's specifically for this reason. And that's a lot of people don't realize that this is an option. You know, every person, we were talking before the podcast today, that every person I have come in contact with, and I've asked them, how much is your 401k making? And some of these are people that really watch their numbers, have no idea how much they're making. And unless you're making over 3%, that's the average inflation over the past 100 years. Unless you're making more than that, you're losing money. And I think a lot of people don't think like this. They think, I'm in the stock market, it's a long play, I'm making maybe something, my financial advisor knows what they're doing, and they don't realize this might be an option. And so that's why I'm really excited to have you show people that there is another way to do this and to earn something better than the 2% they're probably making on things at this point. So yeah. So what do you say to people when they first, like, what is that moment like where they've taken the red pill, they know there's another option now? What's that thing that gets them over the hurdle going, this isn't really risky, probably the stock market's more risky? What do you need to get them over that? Like, what's that one thing that really helps them to understand it, for anyone out there who's intrigued but still not quite, there?
There's three big reasons why private lenders love doing business with us, get interested in doing business with us, and stay with us. I mean, when we cash out on a property and we send them their payoff back, they don't even want it. They'll say, can't you just keep it? Well, I can't keep it because I'm collateralizing their notes. And then so we go do another deal. Three big reasons why they want to do business with us. Number one, they're going to make a whole lot more money than they can through traditional sources, such as a certificate of deposit at the local bank. I've been paying 8% since 2009. People say, Jay, how in the world are you paying the same thing today that you were in 2009? And markets have gone up, they've gone down, they've gone up, they've gone down. How can that be? Well, here's the first reason why I'm still paying them 8%. I make the rules. You see, I said at the beginning of the show, institutional money that you borrow, they make the rules. In this world of private money, we're not asking for a mortgage, we're offering. We're offering an opportunity. So since I'm offering it, I get to make the rules. We get to set the interest rate, the term, the length of the note, the frequency of payments, all that. And the second reason they love the interest rate is because 8% today is still a whole lot higher than they could get. A little over a year ago, you could get 5% in a local CD for 7 months at First Citizens Bank right here on Bridges Street in Morehead City, North Carolina. That same CD today is 3.5%, and it's coming down fast, right? But even at 5%, 8% is a whole lot more than 5%, and their notes are collateralized. So number one reason, they make a lot more money than through traditional sources. The second reason that they absolutely love it is because their investment with us is secure and it is safe. So how is it secure? We're not borrowing unsecured funds. We're collateralizing the note. We're naming them on the insurance policy as a mortgagee in case there's ever a claim. The checks are made payable to them as well as me, with them being the lender. We name them on the title policy as additional insured. And along with that, it is safe because it is a conservative loan to value. We're not borrowing more than 75% of the after repaired value. Bear in mind, I did not say 75% of the purchase price.
Yeah.
Big difference. Since we're buying these properties at a significantly discounted amounts due to them needing renovation, we always bring home a big check when we purchase every property. We never take any of our own money to the closing table. If you're listening to this or watching this and you're a real estate investor, who wants to get paid to buy houses, right? We always bring home a big check when we buy. So they're going to make a lot of money. It's safe, it's secure. And thirdly, their investment amount, the value of it is not volatile. So I'm contrasting this opportunity to being a private lender with investing in the stock market. When you invest in the stock market, my lens is the market volatile. Well, yeah, take a look at the past week and tell me if the market is volatile or not, right? I mean, what you could have owned last week is worth, 10% less today than it was. It can be worth more. And there's fees and commissions. In this world, there are no fees and commissions. The investor, the principal lender, the lender knows exactly what their return is going to be. I love what you said a moment ago, Andrew, when you said you asked people, well, what rate are you getting consistently, in your retirement account? They don't know. No. Well, a private lender knows exactly what their rate of return is going to be. It's like putting money in the local bank. Instead of knowing %, they know that with no fees, no commissions, and nothing else coming out of that.